Hello all, Captain Bringdown here. I am currently engaged in a kung fu battle of wits with Zach. Trying to figure out just the exact nature of my misanthropy. We're going on about whether it is society or humans that is the problem. Now, don't get me wrong, I am proud to call Zach my friend. I think that he is an amazing and brilliant young man. But on this point, we disagree. Penniless Cripple made an amazing video. It's sharp. It's one of the... It's the perfect combination of style and substance. I'll put a link up where I'm here. You guys can go check that out. I made a reply to that. It was all very professional, all very nicely researched, and fading in, fading out, and this, that, everything else, but it was also bloody depressing. So I decided to scrap that and just go back to my notes and have a little one-on-one with y'all. So, let us begin. I have here another one of my big, heavy books that you probably won't find in too many bathrooms. Modern Classical Philosophers. In here is a piece by a man who is probably one of the very few people who is potentially more depressing than I am. A guy by the name of Thomas Hobbes wrote a piece called Leviathan about the nature of man and society. What a coinkydink. Anyway, it has that very famous line, the life of man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Now, Hobbes wrote that 356 years ago. And it's still true. For most men, life is short, nasty, brutish, and all that other awful stuff. So, what do we do? Well, everybody's talking about it's time for a change, time for a change, time for a change. And it makes me snicker. And as I said, I am not a pessimist. I'm a non-practicing optimist. And I'm going to tell you why. Horrible cliche that it is. The one thing we learn from history is that we do not learn from history. So when people say time for a change into what? As Popeye said, I am what I am. And what are we? We are humans. And we've been humans for a long time, and we're going to keep on being humans. Let's go to the notes. Cave painting. 15,000 BCE, before Common Era. Cave painting. Get a bunch of guys together, they draw a bunch of their kills and stuff, and they document, in ritual form, their hunting prowess. Fast forward 17,000 years to the modern age, and walk into any bar bathroom, and you'll see exactly the same thing. Guys ritualistically portraying their hunting skills on bathroom walls in the form of Jane gives good head. So there is some progression for you. Still the hunter-gatherer, still writing on walls to prove how manly we are. So, yay evolution. What's next? Oh, let's go to Aesop. 550 BCE. Aesop, yeah, the guy who wrote the fables. He wrote a fable called The Ant and the Grasshopper. And it's all about the dangers of laying about doing nothing when there is work to be done and the price to be paid for such behavior. It was a warning. And that was written 2,550 odd years ago. People still tell the story because nobody listened. Fast forward to 79 CE, Common Era. Pliny the Younger writes in his journals about how the earthquakes plaguing the city that he lives in have become so common that nobody pays attention to them anymore. A few weeks later, him and thousands of other people were killed when Vesuvius erupted. Nobody paid attention. Ned Ludd and the Luddites, 1811. Protesting against the dangers of the growth of industrialization. Basically, they were pissed off that they were losing their jobs to a bunch of machines, which they then proceeded to destroy. But the seed had been planted. People were saying, industry bad, industry bad. Nobody listened. And now we have Davis Guggenheim and Al Gore with An Inconvenient Truth. It may be inconvenient, and that's probably why nobody has paid attention. So, you go from Aesop's fable of, there are things to be done, hurry up and do them, or the winter is coming and you're fucked, 2,550 some odd years ago, and we're still telling the same stories today because humans don't learn. One of my favorites of the Greek classical plays is The Women of Troy by Euripides. 415 BCE, so that would make it a little over 2,400 years old. Talks about how politicians will lead us into the folly of war. And we all know how much we've learned in the past 2,400 years as far as that's concerned, because, Michael Moore made essentially the same movie when he made Fahrenheit 9/11. Politicians leading us to war. Way to go. Are we seeing a pattern here yet? Alexander the Great, 333 BCE, kicks ass on Darius III, takes over Persia in the name of Western civilization and carrying on the work of his father, Philip of Macedonia. March 19th, 2003, George W. Bush declares war on Iraq. Do you see a pattern forming here? Of course, the separation there is a good 2,400 years, but no, we didn't learn a goddamn thing, did we? Why? Because we don't pay attention. Now, I wouldn't consider the book of Exodus in the Old Testament to be fact, but what is a fact is that the teachings and stories of the Old Testament are the basis for no less than 3 of the world's major religions. So you have Exodus, and if it did actually happen, biblical scholars try and, there's a volcanic eruption, there's a pharaoh, there's some stuff, they try to work it out. They figure that it happened sometime between 1600 and 1200 BCE. Now, what happens? Moses takes the chosen people into the promised land with orders from God to kill everything in their path. Now, that's old times. Humans have evolved since then. And then 1939 rolls around and Hitler invades Poland for Lebensraum, living room, for the chosen people, the master race. 3500 BCE. The early Bronze Age. People started casting weapons out of bronze. It's a huge technological leap, and the nature of warfare was changed forever. 13th century, Common Era. Edward I, the Longshanks, made famous by Mel Gibson's Braveheart, created Warwolf, a trebuchet. A trebuchet, strictly speaking, is a big-ass catapult. But this Warwolf was, to that time, the largest siege engine ever created. The nature of warfare had changed forever. Fast forward to 1867, when Mr. Alfred Nobel stabilizes nitroglycerin, creates TNT, and the nature of warfare is changed forever. July 16th, 1945, the Manhattan Project goes boom at Trinity, the first atomic bomb is exploded, and the nature of warfare is changed forever. Do you see a progression here? Are we learning? No, we are not. Then, of course, you have my new personal favorite. Roman Empire, the legions, conquering the known world. They didn't carry beef, they kept cattle, so that their food could march with them. They also had dogs to herd that cattle, and when they weren't herding cattle, they had those dogs in battle. Kick-ass, brutal war dogs that were trained to fuck people up. They were also the ancestors of the Rottweiler, just so you know. So, the Romans, very civic-minded, but extremely barbaric at the same time. They were kick-ass, warlike people. But we must have evolved since then. We have culture now. We have professional football. Michael Vick, one of the highest-paid athletes in the history of professional sport, the NFL first-round draft pick for 2001. Yeah, we all know what he's been doing. See how far the human race has progressed. when our best, brightest, and richest act like Roman legionnaires? Yay! Essentially, as far as I am concerned, the human race is like an abusive boyfriend, consistently beating the shit out of those who depend on him. He gets caught, he stops, he gets down on one knee, he begs for forgiveness, she takes him back because he's all she has, and the first chance he beats the living shit out of her again. We are not to be trusted. So you'll excuse me if I seem a little jaded and a little cynical when people say, now is the time for change. Because we've been changing for the better part of 20,000 years. And you know what? We're still fucking animals.